well as being an advanced life support paramedic for around 11 years now, I do have 2 young children myself. I have a 6 and a 3-year-old, and unfortunately for me, I have dealt with a child that has a completely blocked off airway in my own home with my youngest daughter, and she's actually done it to me twice now. As a parent or a caregiver of young children, if a child does begin to choke, you are the best person to help them, okay? There's no good in that situation you getting really anxious and not being able to help your child, because unfortunately time is quite critical. So obviously we know that air is vital for life, and the longer that we go without air, obviously the more damage that can be done to our bodies. So the good news, and what I hope to achieve today, is not to scare you that all your children are going to choke tomorrow, okay, because that's not going to happen. But if it does happen, you will, yes, be very anxious and worried and scared, but you will know what to do quickly, and it will be hopefully all over and done with in around 10 seconds. Now, obviously, with all first aid injuries that we cover in our courses and illnesses and injuries, when we focus on the injuries, with children, the best thing to do is avoid them. And how do we avoid a choking episode? Well, you want to limit their access to those high-risk foods, those whole foods that are hard and firm that can easily lodge in their airway. So things that I avoided with my children when they were quite young were the hard fruit and vegetables. So grating down the carrots and the apples, with the grapes and the strawberries, cutting those down into smaller sizes. Just the other week, one of my trainers from one of our courses in Sydney, she works at a paediatric emergency department, and she rang me and said that unfortunately she had a little toddler, 2-year-old, brought in, who was in the care of her grandparents, and they'd come across this child. They weren't in the room when she obviously choked on the food. They'd found her a little bit of time later, and she actually passed away that day from choking on a grape. Okay, so just a reminder, grapes are perfect sizes to fit into that hole and block off their airway. So just chop them down smaller. Sausages, we always chop them down for the kids, but usually we chop them into a size that's perfect to block into their airway. So just remember about chopping them down further, okay? Whole nuts aren't great going into that airway. Popcorn is really easy for them to inhale. Marshmallows, chewable lollies and things like that are all things that I tend to say to parents, probably don't give them early on in their life. Wait for they've got some better action with their chewing down the track. So just be mindful about that. When it comes to choking in young children, between the ages of 0 and 4, we look at the types of things they choke on is predominantly food. So it's not so much the Lego and the things on the ground, it's the food. So the best thing you can do is supervise them when they're eating. Okay, then if it happens, you're there, you can take action straight away, and there won't be any long-term implications for your child. So supervise your children when they're eating, and if it does occur, after today, you'll have the skills to know what to do. So obviously, this is just one topic that we cover in our first aid courses for parents that we run, both as public sessions and private sessions. So the first thing we're going to focus on in choking child, if what to do, is we need to first identify, is our child choking? Yes. If so, is it a partial obstruction to their airway, or is it a full obstruction to their airway? If it's only partial, it's great news for you, because they'll be able to clear it out on their own without you hardly touching them, okay? And how you will identify that is they will be coughing, okay? Babies that are newborn, that are just born, they have born with their cough reflex. So even if day 1 of birth, they get a mouthful of their own saliva, mucus from the birthing situation that they've been through, then they'll be able to clear it quite easily with some coughing. If the coughing has not been successful, obviously you need to look at the position that your child's in, because it's really hard to cough out something when you're lying down flat. So just make sure if your child is choking a bit on a food or their own saliva, a bit of vomit, just sit them upright, cough, 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 and they'll clear it out. Now, a lot of parents stress out with their young babies that when they're in bed, they might be quite a refluxy baby, bringing up a little bit of vomit. The good news there is that, yes, it is a little bit more difficult in that position, but they do still do a good job, okay? They will change position, they'll move around, they'll cough, 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 and eventually they'll either vomit it out or swallow it down, okay? So if they're continuing to cough, you might need to just lift them up, give them a pat on their back gently and reassure them, and that's all you need to do. So there's no time to panic here. They just have a partial obstruction, they'll continue to cough, and pretty much every child will do that time and time again with a partial obstruction. All right, but what you want to know and what you're here to know is what to do if my child has a full obstruction of their airway.